Hi, David.
Hi, Nadira.
Let me put this question in this way. If I want to become an effective risk professional, what core competencies I shall acquire?
This is a very important question. A lot of people are given roles in risk management, in facilitating risk management in organizations, in projects, in businesses, in charities, in government, with no training, with no previous experience, and with no understanding of the expectations of the role. And so we struggle along, and that's how I started. In 1984, I was a junior manager in an engineering company, and our customer said, we would like you to, the company, to introduce risk management. And of course the company said, yes, sir. And they didn't know what it was. And they had to find somebody to do it, and so they found me, and they said, would you like to introduce risk management on your project? I said, yes, sir. How do I do it? They said, we don't know. Okay. And I had to find out. And it was the beginning of a long journey, which has led me to sitting here with you, answering these questions for the videos. And I'm very glad that I had the opportunity back then. But we didn't know what a good risk professional was. Now, with some 30 years behind us, I think we're beginning to see that there are some characteristics that are really helpful. The first is in terms of perspective. And I think the risk professional needs to be able to take a detailed view and a high-level view at the same time. So you find some people who are very good at the detail, they can pull things apart and analyze them, and they can work out what the individual parts are and see them in great detail.
Yes.
But they have no way of understanding how this makes a big picture.
Yes.
And you have other people who are very strategic in their thinking and are able to understand the big vision, but they're not interested in the detail. The risk professional really needs to take both perspectives. So it is important that we're interested in the detail. When something looks like it might be going wrong, we say why. When we're interested in the possibility of improving something, we say how. When we're looking at a risk, we say, well, what caused that? What could its effect be? How would that influence the objectives? Who's going to take care of it? What are they going to do? How are they going to do it? And all of this detail interests us, and we're able to analyze the detail, and that's very important. But also to say, well, what does all this mean? So now I have a risk register with 100 risks in with all of this detail, and then I want to know, what is my overall exposure? What are we going to do in terms of our overall strategy? How does this influence our risk-seeking strategy, our risk-seeking attitude, our risk appetite? How are we going to express that? These big decisions need to be based on the detail, and the detail needs to be analyzed in the context of the big picture. So that double perspective, looking at the detail and being able to see the big picture at the same time, is quite unusual, and I think it is a key competence of a risk professional. The second thing, I think, is more of a personal characteristic. It's the characteristic of curiosity, of being interested, of wanting to ask the second question. If you say to somebody, how is your project going? And they go, well, it's okay, but there's a few areas I'm worried about. You don't just say, oh, well, good luck, and walk away. You say, oh, what are those areas? Yes. And let's just find out a little bit more. And you say, well, one of them, my chief engineer is a little bit demotivated. Oh, that's interesting. Why do you think that is? And if he really became unmotivated, what effect would that have on and how likely is that to happen? And what are you going to do about it? And you start to ask questions not because it's the process, but because you're genuinely curious and interested. And that is, curiosity is an initial personal characteristic, but it can be developed if you really are interested in the situation. So double perspective and curiosity. And then I think the ability to deal well with people is crucial. So interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, communication, the ability to understand what other people are thinking and why, to help people to achieve their goals, to engage people, to communicate appropriately, whether it's in writing or in words or in graphical pictures, in presentations, in emails, to have a full range of communication skills and be able to tailor your communication to your audience or to the person you're speaking to be comfortable in interpersonal skills or in communication with people at all levels. You may need to talk to a chief executive or to a government minister. You may need to talk to a cleaner or to a security guard. You may need to talk to a technical specialist who is an expert in their field, or you may need to talk to a general manager. You may need to talk to somebody who has a completely different perspective from you, a different culture, a different nationality. All of these are really important skills for the risk professional because people manage risk. And we talked in an earlier section about why people are important in risk management. So it's a key skill, a key competence for a risk professional to be able to understand and engage with people and help them through what they have to do. And the last thing that I would mention is something that we've covered in a number of other answers to questions, and that is the ability to facilitate. Often we are good at our jobs, but what we want to do is do it ourselves. You know, look, it's easier if I just do it for you. You just tell me the details of your situation, the characteristics of your decision, and I'll work out what the risks are for you because, you know, I can do that better than you can. No, that's not our role. Our role is to facilitate and make it easier for someone else. And so developing good facilitation skills are really important so that we can help other people to do what they need to do to manage their risks. So those are, I would think, the core competencies. There's also a range of knowledge that we need to gain and skills which are different from these competencies. So things like understanding the basic principles of risk, knowing how the risk process works and fits together, having the ability to use a variety of tools and techniques to identify risk, to prioritize, respond, and so on. Having those sorts of knowledge and understanding is really important as well. But it's not as important as those personal competencies of the double perspective, seeing the detail and the big picture, of having that curiosity to ask the next question and find out, of having interpersonal and communication skills that can enable you to engage people no matter who they are, and facilitation skills to make it easy for other people to do what they have to do.
These are quite challenging competencies, but again, it helps the organization. I mean, if they are aware of these competencies, to recruit the right people to do the job of risk management.
I think recruiting the right people or recruiting people who can become the right people. So if you see the potential in somebody, but they just lack communication skills, they're good at the double perspective and they're very curious, but they can't communicate. Well, you can train people and coach people in how to do that. Or if people have good analytical skills in the detail, but they don't really see the big picture, you can train them to do that, coach them in how to do that. So you're right, you need to know what you're aiming for. A good risk professional looks like this. And then if you can find one ready-made, that's great. But if you can't, you can take somebody who is part of the way there and you know what you're aiming at and you can train and develop them towards that.
That was a great conversation. Thank you very much, David.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.